This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the Daily FX Forum.
So here are the 5 pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, the Euro Swiss, as well as the Euro Aussie. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. First chart is the Euro Pound. If you recall, during yesterday's report, I mentioned the short entry at 88.10 with a stop at 88.75. Prices did come up to about 88.25 or so after I did speak. So hopefully you all got in this trade. Those of you who were not in the original entry at 88.23, again with the same stop at 88.75, as prices have fallen well over 100 pips now. So hopefully again you're all in this trade, and initial targets would be down near the 86 figure, which are these lows right here, but ultimately I do expect those lows to be exceeded, so I would just stay in the trade. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and if you recall the short trade from 126.40, we were stopped out at 127.10. I did mention this, I'd have a tentative bearish bias against this line here. We can see prices are right now above this line, but if they were to reverse to the downside, they would just leave behind a long wick. So that's what I would say right now. I'm not going to give any specific trade entries here, but zooming in here later on, let's say tomorrow during Friday afternoon in New York, if you do see a large wick left behind and maybe prices come down to about the 27 figure, I might consider short entries there with a stop back beyond that wick high. But again, you know, that's just a scenario that I want to see play out, and I would have to play out before I enter. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and not much has changed here. Again, we're still just trading the Euro Pound. Pound Swiss has been acting as the inverse, so I'm just going to stay on the sidelines here. The Euro Swiss, as I've been mentioning during the past few reports, I am on the sidelines now. The one thing I would mention, I might have a slight bullish bias against the low of this candle right here, which is 46.34. Basically what I'm doing is just ignoring this very large candle here, and with prices right now at about 46.50, I don't mind taking a shot here, maybe just risking about 25 pips or so. So it would be long 146.50 with a stop at 146.25. Again, long 146.50 with a stop at 146.25. The next chart is the Euro Aussie, and hopefully again all of you got in this trade. I was mentioning it for a few weeks. The short entry at 158.75 with a stop at 159.75. During yesterday's report I mentioned to take profits if you had to take profits at about 155.45, a little over a 300 pip gain, and to hold the rest. Again, that was if the position was broken into two, let's say 2 standard lots or 2 mini lots, and to hold the rest. And prices right now about 53.71, so that's a 500 pip gain total. And what I was going to say for this trade idea right now, I would continue to stay in that second lot and wait to see during tomorrow's session if prices do get back above that 54.11 area. So for example, in tomorrow, let's say the late session in New York, if you see prices are above 54.11, I would go out and close out the entire position. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the Daily FX Forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the Daily FX Forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something, you know, catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as Daily FX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, you know, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to, you know, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things you know, with the right mind in terms of, you know, I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's, you know, my personal way of using the forum. You know, every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now. now is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, you know, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on, you know, how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, you know, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, you know, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should, you know, double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would, you know, suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.